All right, you know him best from his time as T-Dawg in The Walking Dead. He is much more than just an actor. He's an author. He once took handoffs from prominent quarterbacks. He has done so much more. It's IronE Singleton. Iron, welcome. I'm going to clap for you. There's a round of applause.
Wow.
We'll dub that in later.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thanks for being here, man. How are you?
I'm so glad to be here. I'm fantastic. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm great, and I'm very happy that you're here because I have just a ton of stuff to talk to you about and ask you about. You're busy, and we appreciate your time. I know that Athens is familiar territory for you because you are a bulldog at
heart. Go Dogs, baby. Sick 'em.
Now, for those who don't know, you played 97, 98?
95 through 98.
95 through 98.
95 through 98. I lettered 97, 98.
So this is the big question. At this troubled time for Bulldogs, things do get better, right? You had some ups and downs in your Bulldog career. Things will get better, right?
Of course. I'm definitely a believer. I bleed the red and black, so they can only get better.
Yeah,
you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
And this town obviously is so unique. I mean, I know you travel the country and you've been everywhere. So is there anything that really replicates what between the university and the nightlife and everything?
Yeah, no, there's no other place that comes close to being what Athens is.
Yeah.
Athens is the place where I became a man.
Really?
I grew up in Athens when I got here. Yeah, I mean, I became a man here.
Yeah.
And this town is so special. I consider it my second home because having come out of the projects, I had a totally different mindset than I had when I got here to Georgia.
Yeah.
And I got to Georgia and my exposure to so many different people from different cultures, ethnicities, and all walks of life basically made me who I am along with my studies at UGA.
Right.
So I just became a totally different person.
Is it a credit to what? Obviously, a credit to what you've put together, what you've assembled in your life, and becoming a man and stuff. I guess essentially, when you're saying that, I thought, yeah, I guess I did too, because I came to Georgia and I stayed in that. I came to UGA and did the same thing. I'm not sure I did it the right way, but you have put together all of your experiences and stuff in this one man show, which is great. It's called Blindsided.
Yes,
and,
by The Walking Dead, exactly.
And I think the Morton Theater gets it November 8th. Now you're traveling all around with this thing. Right?
I'm traveling all around. Now the Morton Theater gets it first. That's because I did my first stage play at the Morton Theater.
Really?
Goes back to me saying this is where I became a man. And when I say where I became a man, not just in the physical sense because I was 18, 19 years old, but in the spiritual, mental sense, the maturity factor, because we have a lot of men, physically speaking, they're 25, 30 years old, but they're not quite men mentally.
Absolutely.
And you need all of those to go together in order to consider yourself a real man. And that's what I mean. I had to put a lot of the childish things aside. That happened to me because of my experiences here at Georgia.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you get exposure to all kinds of new stuff when you end up in Athens as a freshman or whatever. And
second year sophomore, I transferred from Kentucky State.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I was a sophomore when I came in.
Okay.
Yeah. So
and it gives you a very unique perspective that you're going to get at the Morton Theater November 8th. So you want to keep that in mind. Now, there's a book. I mentioned author in there. Tell me about the book.
Yes.
And is this a transition from the book to
it is a transition. It's a natural progression. The book is called Blindsided by The Walking Dead. Mm-hmm. I saw somewhere on the internet, somebody was like, wow, IronE is determined to tell his story. First, he has the book, Blindsided by The Walking Dead. Now he has the stage play, Blindsided by The Walking Dead. What's next? A movie deal.
Yeah.
So that's what we're progressing towards.
Excellent.
And my goal is to get the message out there. And the message is truth and love. Okay. And as long as we embrace those elements, everything else will fall into place. Those were the elements that I learned to embrace when I got to the University of Georgia, which is another reason why UGA is so special to me. So the book is basically, I've converted the book into a stage play, and I tell that story on the stage in 2 hours. The whole book is like 200 plus pages, but I tell it on stage in 2 hours, playing 18 different characters.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, it sounds exhausting just you saying it, putting it together, but it's your life experiences, right? So it's natural to you.
It's exhausting, but it's reinvigorating at the same time. I know that's an oxymoron, but that's the way it is. It's exhausting because I'm on that stage for 2 hours, pouring my heart out and doing my best to entertain the crowd, but reinvigorating because I know that there's a special message attached to it. People aren't just being entertained. people are being informed and educated, and there's so many things that people walk away from this show with.
Right.
When they leave blindsided by The Walking Dead,
right.
you walk away renewed, feeling refreshed.
See, and we've been in this room for just a couple minutes together. You've said stuff that it already speaks to me as far as just that experience coming to Athens, growing, becoming a man, and things. And then, but where was it that you were? So there you are. You're on the you're a Georgia Bulldog. You're on the football team. It's a dream that so many people have to just set foot on that field, let alone put the pads on, and you're there. But you had, so for some, that's such a focal point, a narrowing focal point, that football is it. You obviously didn't have that. You had drama, right?
Yes, and in addition to that, exactly. Now, Kris, I'll tell you like this. I'll sum it up in a nutshell. I grew up in the inner city. I didn't have my father in my life. I lost my mother at 18 from HIV complications. My brother, he's in and out of jail, prison. I want you to understand why UGA is so special.
This all happened before.
This all happened before that because I grew up in the inner city of Atlanta. I ran the streets. I sold drugs. I carried a pistol. I was sexually promiscuous, like the whole nine. And when I got to Georgia, all of that changed. All of it changed. Yeah. That's why it's so special for me to be here at UGA and to open my show at the Morton Theater, because that's, in a sense, that's where it all began for me, you know?
It's interesting that you say that, too, because for some I'll say troubled athletes, but it could be anybody, but troubled athletes, sometimes you hear that college opens up that experience and the things you mentioned, then that's their first exposure to that. You had that beforehand, so you get here. And then your maturity is already kind of faster.
It was pretty much there. I had already experienced all that stuff. So the only thing I had to do was come here and focus and do what I had to do as a student, and then two, as an athlete.
Right.
So again, going back to what you mentioned prior to this right here, I was a football player and I was a theater major.
Yeah.
So go figure that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a football player and theater major? Can you imagine going from rehearsal to football practice and having your teammates to say, "IronE, go ahead and do a monologue for me. Do some Shakespeare for me.
Give me some Shakespeare.
You know, give me some Shakespeare." So it was just, those were two different worlds for me. But I managed to juxtapose the two in good fashion, and it all worked out for me really well. You know.
Well, tell me how it goes from you. Obviously, the Walking Dead has become such a phenomenon, and I mean, are you even surprised? Obviously, you're there in the midst of it. When you're on the show, you obviously don't know. But when you're no longer a cast member, are you looking at it and going, "I can't believe this thing is got this momentum and these legs like it has"?
I look at it like that now, but I looked at it like that before.
Yeah.
At the beginning, ever since the season premiere, episode 1, when we premiered to 6 million plus viewers.
Right.
How incredible is that? That is twice as many as the viewers that Mad Men had.
Yeah, that's not ABC, that's AMC, which a lot of people can't even find sometimes.
Right, exactly. And twice the number of viewers that Breaking Bad had. Now, those shows are AMC's marquee shows. So now for The Walking Dead to come on and do at least twice the numbers, very remarkable. So now everybody has their eyes on The Walking Dead. And so from 6 million viewers in season 1 to now 16 million viewers.
Yeah.
And if you include the DVR and all that stuff added to it, you're talking about 20 million. It's the biggest show in cable history.
Yeah.
How incredible is that? Nobody saw that coming.
No.
Nobody.
You're happy to have an acting gig.
I'm happy to have an acting gig.
You're on the show. Maybe to give you some lines, you're happy.
Right. I'm like, all right, I got another acting job. This is cool, man. The Blind Side opened so many doors for me.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have this opportunity. They said, Frank Darabont, the show's creator, he said, you're going to do 2, maybe 3 episodes. 2 or 3 episodes. I said, okay, well, this will be the longest job I will have had since I broke through in Hollywood, quote unquote.
Right.
That 2-3 episodes ended up turning into 3 seasons.
Okay.
So that's miraculous in itself.
Right.
So it was, but at first I was like, I just got a job. I didn't know I was going to be in the biggest show in television cable history.
No, that was obviously that's Walking Dead is a breakthrough. Your breakout role. Your breakthrough was you had a lot of smaller roles. I mean, you were in the movie Blind Side.
Yes.
You had other roles in smaller films and TV shows, and obviously that what kind of experiences did you have leading up to Walking Dead that made you want to stick to it? Because I know you hear stories about, like, listen, Hollywood, nobody's cut out for it.
Well, I had a vision early on as a kid, and you coming from the projects, if you're able to get out of that situation, you're so grateful, but at the same time, you're so confident because you're like, if I made it out of this, I'm still alive. What? No bullet holes?
Yeah.
What's going on here?
So if somebody tells you no, you're like, no big deal.
No big deal. Yeah. It's like, okay, that's nothing to fret about.
Yeah.
That's nothing to cry about.
Right.
It's like, man, I made it through the worst times of my life in a sense. So right now, if I get a no, I just move on and keep it moving. Sure. My plan was to act until the day I died.
Yeah.
And graduating from high school was a big accomplishment coming from where I come from.
Right.
So I ended up going to college, not just going to college, but graduating from college, the prestigious University of Georgia.
That's right.
You know, so I graduated from there. So it was like, nobody can tell me that I can accomplish anything. And then graduated from Georgia, anything I did, my family was like, that's great. If he wants to be a kickball player,
yeah,
that's fantastic. he can't do any wrong in our eyes, you know? So
that's good.
I could have acted for 50 years doing community theater, and I would have still been considered a success.
Yeah. Did how did theater background? How did that kind of experience? You know, I hear stories. I like to think that that's a natural progression. You know, that you would do some community theater. You maybe find a role somewhere, get a small film and work it up. Did it work that way for you?
It worked that way, just like that for me. Like I said, my first show was Fences, August Wilson's Fences at the Morton Theater.
Okay.
And then I did several shows at the Georgia Rep at the campus drama building.
Right.
So I did shows there, and then after I graduated from college, I ended up doing several community plays in Atlanta. And for 10 years, I went without an agent. After graduating, I graduated in 98. I didn't have an agent. I could not get an agent. Nobody would represent me. So it was like my back was against the wall, Kris. I was like, I've got to do something. Yeah. I'm desperate. You know, my wife was holding down the fort along with my wifeager. I call her she's my manager, my wife. So she's the wifeager. And we had kids. The kids kept coming.
Right.
So we had 3 kids.
Okay.
And I was like, and she was basically the breadwinner. And I was like, I have to do something. So that's when I did my one-man show.
Yeah.
So then I did my one-man show, was theater, went back to my roots, did 18 different characters, most challenging thing I'd ever done, like I said.
Right.
And after I did that, that's when I was contacted by an agency that said they wanted to represent me.
Wow.
So, yes, it was a natural progression from the stage
okay.
to television and film. Yeah.
So that's a dream scenario in some ways because you got to do something your way. It's your show, you're doing it your way, and your talent is then recognized by somebody, and then it grows from there.
Yes, that's a dream divine for me because, like I said, graduating from high school was a dream, and graduating from college was a magnificent dream, I guess. Yeah. And then going on to actually accomplish what I set out to accomplish, being in the movies. It's a dream divine, you know.
So your agent calls you one day, says, "Hey, they're doing this show in Georgia called Walking Dead." How does that happen, and how do you end up as T-Dawg?
It happens kind of slightly like that. My agent calls me and says, "Are you interested in being in a zombie television show?" I'm like, zombies?
How could they do a zombie show?
Right. I'm like, zombies? I don't know. How would that work for TV? But for one, I'm not a big horror fanatic buff or whatever, because as a kid my mother would take me and my brother to watch movies, scary movies. Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, all that stuff. And so I was kind of traumatized as a kid. I was 4 and 5 years old watching this stuff and watching Jason hack people to pieces or whatnot. So when I got older, I really didn't have much interest in doing horror. So when he called me, I was like, I don't know. And then he told me who was directing, who was executive producing. He said Frank Darabont, Gail and Hurd, they were at the helm. And I said, if they're at the helm, let me see the sides, meaning the script. Let me see what it's looking like, because it could possibly do something. It could possibly, work out really well. Who knows? And so when I read it, and next thing you know, I'm on the set. Yeah,
and then you're as you mentioned, it goes from a couple episodes to now you're in season 1 and season 2, and is within the confines of the show. Obviously, they shoot in Georgia, so that's nice. You're in somewhat familiar territory. Mm-hmm. But is it so much different having that show shot in Georgia than it is something you've done out in Hollywood or some other bigger location?
It's surreal.
Yeah,
it really is, because not only did we shoot in Georgia, but we shot right in my backyard.
Really?
Where I grew up. So imagine the contrast.
Wow.
Yes. Where I grew up, we shot maybe 2-3 miles away from there.
Man.
And so every time, there were times where we would drive through where they've torn down the buildings, the project since then.
Yeah.
But I'd drive through there and see little landmarks that stood out to me. And I was like, wow, I remember just some, maybe approaching a couple of decades ago, I was ducking and dodging, trying to, running for my life, ducking and dodging bullets or whatever.
That's incredible.
So now here I am, in the TV world, fantasy world, fighting zombies or whatnot, so it was surreal in that sense.
Man, that's amazing. I mean, for the entirety of that cast, nobody is feeling the the things that you're feeling, obviously, when you're right there.
No, and I had to talk to them about it. I talked to several people about it. I talked to Lori Holden. She plays Andrea on the show. And I'm like, Lori, you just can't imagine how this has me feeling right now. And I got emotional. I was full.
Yeah.
I was full with emotion because I was like, man, it was divine that I made it out of there, you know? The fact that I made it out of there and here to just be able to talk to, you know, to the Hollywood elite about it,
right.
to share in those moments, it was just something special.
Is the and as as your run on that show comes to an end, are you feeling like, okay, this is a body of work and this is momentum for me personally that you wanted to catapult going back to something to doing your own thing? Or are you thinking, that you want to, is it go to the next project kind of thing? Or do you like to kind of segment things off and kind of have your own, like your one-man show like you're having now?
That's the game plan. First and foremost, my plan is to please God.
Yeah.
And my job is to listen and obey. Right. And to do whatever God tells me to do. And God right now is telling me to do this one-man show. So, and I think it was set up beautifully. It was like God said, I'm going to give you a major platform to where, so many people recognize you. This exposure is going to be very significant. I want you to use that exposure and get back to where we originally began, in a sense, and that's Blindsided by the Walking Dead. But then it was IronE the Resurrected.
Okay.
But now, because people are more familiar with that, it's more appropriate to call it Blindsided by the Walking Dead.
Gotcha.
So God is like, get back to that. So it's all a matter of, there's a line T-Dawg said in season 3, right before his demise, he said that this is God's plan. So only thing I need to do, Kris, is listen and obey.
Yeah.
I continue to listen and obey. Everything else is going to fall into place. And I just listen. God said, do the show.
See, it's so good to have that direction too, isn't it? I mean, seriously, how many people don't have direction? I might be one of those people. I'm speaking, but seriously, to have it's such a unique perspective that what you're describing, to have a direction that where things are going to go. What happens. But
I agree. I think hardship sharpens focus. I think hardship brings about humility, a gratefulness that, that can only be developed through hardship, tough times. This is one of the things I learned in acting class, that in order to be not only, I won't say only, other things, but including but not limited to. But I think that, going through what I went through in my life, it's like, if I'm alive today, I'm alive for a reason. There's a major purpose for me. There's a major purpose in my life. My purpose now is not to go out and club and party and mess around with different women and do all this stuff because, like I said, I've been there, done that. That stuff is old to me now. It's like I want to make my mother's life mean something. Mm-hmm. My mother, I want to make sure that she didn't die in vain. My mother was an alcoholic. She was a crack addict. And I had an epiphany the night she died. And I said, because I didn't want to live after that. I said, I don't care to live. I don't even want to be here. Well, yeah. God, you need to tell me something. Let me know what's my purpose. What's my purpose here? Else take me on out. And at that moment, as I said that, Kris, a car came around the corner and its headlights reflected off my wall and it illuminated my whole room. And it was an out-of-body experience that I'll probably never experience again in my life. And that told me that I have a bigger purpose here than to just lollygag, use a word that a couple of my coaches used to use a lot.
Right, yeah.
But to lollygag.
They never say that, do they? You're cleaning it up, I'm sure.
But yeah, then to do that and to my fun, my pleasure, it all comes from pleasing God. Yeah. It all comes from pleasing God, and so that's top priority for me.
Is it? Hearing you speak there is so compelling, and it makes me realize why T-Dawg was the way T-Dawg was. Because whether I know you're getting direction from creators and writers and things, but your personal experience obviously made that character the character that it was.
Yeah, that's how I do my character work.
Yeah.
My characterization, when I develop a character, I go back to where it all began. I go back to my roots because that's less work I have to do as an actor.
Right.
Because you have to build, like if you start with a clean slate, there's a lot of homework you have to do. You have to ask yourself, okay, what kind of toothpaste does this character use? Like little minute details like that as an actor, that's what I've been taught to do. Learned that at UGA.
Right.
So, what kind of car does he drive? Whatever. But I basically use my life story. So for T-Dawg basically grew up in the projects. Mm-hmm. He ended up at the University of Georgia.
You're like, I got this.
Right, I got this. He studied. I mean, he played football. He didn't study theater though. He was like a, liberal arts major or something like that, and he was a blue collar / white collar type worker. So that's most of the journey right there. As my character work progressed, I had already done that, and the rest I just have to fill in from there. So not much to do after that. So that was basically my life in a sense.
Wow. Well, all right. Well, you're taking I know we got to get you out of here. You're taking the show. Your show's on the road, the Morton Theater, November 8th. You don't want to miss Blindsided by the Walking Dead. And WalkerStalker.com. We got to mention
WalkerStalker.com. You're going, Allison? Are you going?
Well, Allison's going now.
Okay.
Maybe she wasn't before, but she's going. But it's going to be. There's going to be nothing else like this because you can go to Comic-Con, you can go to New York, you can go to Dragon Con, but this is specifically centered basically around The Walking Dead. You're going to be there. Tell us what's so unique about this particular.
Exactly. We're going to have just about the entire cast of The Walking Dead. We're going to have Andrew Lincoln there, who plays Rick. We're going to have, I think Chandler Riggs is going. Norman Reedus is going to be there. He plays Daryl on the show. We're going to have Scott Wilson there. He plays Herschel. We're going to have Denai Gadata there, who plays Michonne. We're going to have about 7 or 8 Walking Dead cast members. Normally, we may have about 3.
Yeah.
Maybe 4,
right.
But we're going to have about 8 or 9. And that is what makes this so special, so different. So you don't want to miss out on this. This is an opportunity to catch most of the cast members in one spot at one time.
Now, you have a conflict here because it's Georgia, Florida, Saturday. Are you there Saturday and Sunday, or when are you going to be here?
Yeah, I'm there Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday, okay.
Friday and Saturday, okay. But I'm out at 7, and traditionally the game's at night. I think it's at 7:30 or something.
Well, it's 3:30 this time.
It's 3:30?
So the DVR alert.
Yes.
Okay.
I
know you got work to do. You can't worry about football your whole life.
No, I worry about my Georgia ball though.
Yeah.
Other football that takes a back seat, but yeah, my Georgia ball, I'm concerned.
Well, it should be it should be an amazing weekend over there. November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. So Friday, Saturday, and IronE will be there on Friday and Saturday. So make sure you get over there, see him, greet him. I can't imagine anybody ever meeting you, having a moment with you, and walking away not feeling uplifted in some way.
Wow. Thank you, Brother Kris. Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Please, my pleasure.
We also have panels going on there, too. So I do a panel. I think we're going to have individual panels going on.
Yeah.
We're going to have a Q&A to where people can ask questions. I may even perform my song, We Are the Walking Dead. So I may be performing there live.
Listen to this. Little tease.
Maybe.
Do you need a really crappy bass player? Because I got that covered. If you need me, I'll give you my number before we get out of here.
You'll be there. You'll be on standby.
Hey, listen, people can. I've been stalking you. I'll send you the friend request soon. But on Twitter, how can people keep up with what you're doing on social media and stuff?
Everything is IronE Singleton. Okay. IronESingleton.com. That's my website. That's my Twitter. That's my Facebook. That's my IMDb. Everything's IronE Singleton.
That's easy, right
Thanks
there.
to this beautiful woman here.
She's doing some good work.
She does it all.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Yeah. Listen, I thank my wife for turning me on to The Walking Dead. Otherwise, I would have been faking this whole interview. I wouldn't know what to talk about. And I got to tell you, and maybe you can give me some counseling. I do have an 8-year-old, be a 9-year-old this month, who is coming to the convention, and he wants to be Daryl Dixon for Halloween, and he's going to be. So I'm going to bring him in costume on Saturday or Sunday. Oh. Hopefully we can get the meeting set up. But do you think that's good parenting?
No, that's great. Yeah. I'll say this though. I'll say Daryl's going to be there on Saturday.
Okay, Saturday.
Now, as long as he doesn't, he can show up with the bow and arrow, I guess, and as long as his intention is to take out zombies.
Right, of course, yeah.
Okay, zombies only. Yeah, that's good parenting.
He knows all the parameters.
Okay, yes, okay, good.
He just wants to be cool like Daryl.
Very good.
Yeah. Not cool like me, his dad, but cool like Daryl.
No, that's been instilled subconsciously though. So every child wants to be every boy wants to be like his father.
That's
so
right.
He's there.
That's right. It'll show up at some point in time.
Yes,
all right.
yes.
Well, the book Blindsided by the Walking Dead, the one-man show Blindsided by the Walking Dead, Morton Theater, November 8th. Don't forget. And this has been a real treat. Can we do this like every month or something? You can swing by?
I'd like that.
Okay.
That would be nice.
And I know one of our staff members thought you were like a DJ or whatever. So if you want to come over and spin some records.
What, Russell?
Yeah,
Russell.
Yeah.
Russell actually thought I filled in for you on the weekends. Did he tell you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah. You got like you need more jobs.
This is sounds like a full-time recruitment here. Sounds like okay.
It is. We might get you out of the building with a paycheck, man. man. Just stick around. That is IronE Singleton. It's been an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Same here. Thank you. I appreciate you. I love you. I love all the listeners, fans, and always embrace the elements of truth and love. Everything else will fall into place. Thank you.
And go dogs.
Go dogs. Sick 'em.